Hi everyone, my name is Shreya Sen and I have done my post graduation from National Law University Delhi and will be teaching and discussing the subject of public international law and it is provided that the whole course is divided into 5 units which is further divided into 10 lectures. So let's first discuss the whole syllabus which we are going to cover under this course. So the first unit of the course says that introduction to the public international legal orders, which is further divided into 4 subparts, which is the structure of international community and historical development of public international law, relation between international law and domestic laws, then the main legal features of international community. Next unit contains the substance or subjects of public international law, like on whom the public international law is applicable, and what is the concept of legal personality and subject of law. Further, we will define the state, what is its definition, and what are the essentials of statehood. Further, territory and underlying principles, sovereignty. One of the most important convention relating to states is Montevideo Convention on Rights and Duties of a State, which was held on 26 December 1933. Then, what are international organization? Further, Unit 3 says what are the sources of international law. Article 38 of ICJ statutes, and then treaties, statute of International Court of Justice. Further, custom, general principle of law, codification, resolutions, all are consisted in Unit 3, which relates to the sources of international law. Further, Unit 4 says about the fundamental principle of international law, in which we will discuss about the General Assembly resolutions and responsibility to protect a new principle of international law. Further, the scope of the prohibition and its legal nature. Charter of the United Nations, definition of aggression, and the next unit says, that is Unit 5, states about the state responsibility for internationally wrongful acts. What are international wrongful acts? Nature of international responsibility, content of state responsibility, again legal means of dispute settlement, arbitration and permanent court. So all these are content of the course and it is divided into 5 units. So let's start with the first lecture of the course, and in this first lecture I will cover the whole unit 1, which states about the introduction to the public international legal order. So first is structure of international community, that what is international community, what are its subjects and what are the contents of international community. Next, what is the historical development and specificities of the public international law. Further, the relation between the international law and domestic law. Is there really any relation between them? Is there any requirement that there has to be relation between them? And what is the main legal features of the international community? So let's first come to the topic, which is international community. Now, before getting into international community, let's first discuss what is community. So whenever you say that there is a group of people, may be or may not be same, but they are representing themselves as one, that is called community. Like representation of many people into one group or as a group, is community. So when we talk about international community, we can say that nations of the world all together, when they are recognized or denoted as a group, that is called as international community. Now again, it is important to know what is the meaning of the term international. So when two nations or when a nation goes beyond its territory, that is called international, right? So again, now come to the definition of international community. Again, international community is a group which represents the nations of the world at large, right? This is the international community. So legally we can define it as when two or more nations relate to each other in any form, like treaty or conventions or dispute, etc., such act is international. Now, therefore, we can say that international community represents the countries of the world collectively, right? Now comes what is international law. We have understood what is international community. Now, what is international law? So let's say we are living in India. So whatever law is applicable to India, that is called domestic law, right? So now basing ourselves on that concept, Now let's talk about what is international law. So when we talk about international community, so any law which is prepared or formed to be applicable on international community, that is known as international law. So let's get into the legal concept of it. We can discuss this later. So what is international law? The term was introduced by Jeremy Bentham, and in the year of 1789. And prior to that, that is not the case that prior to 1789 international law was not in existence. It was in existence, but with some another name, which was laws of nation. So prior to international law, it was known by the name of laws of nation, and it acts as a legal framework at global level to ensure stable and organized international relations. So who was the person who coined the term international law? Jeremy Bentham in 1789. Now comes what is the definition of international law. Many people have tried to define, and many scholars, by people I mean to say scholar, eminent jurists, they have tried to define the term international law in their own approach. And in notes, basically I have discussed mainly 5 jurists who have defined the international law. That is not the limited list, this is just few I have picked up. So let's get to the first definition, which is of Professor L. Oppenheim. So what he said that laws of nations or law of nations or international law is the name for body of customary and conventional rules which are considered legally binding upon civilized state in their course with each other. So if you pay attention, what he says that international law is what it comes to play when there is interaction between 2 or more nations, right? So it is applicable and binding upon civilized state in their course to each other, right? Again, this definition was a disputed one. Why? Because of the term used in it, that is civilized nation. Because civilized nation is a very subjective term to be used. Like, who are civilized nation, and how can you say or how can you categorize some nation to be civilized and some other to be uncivilized? The uncivilized one are not going to accept that tag, right? This is the subjectivity of the term. That is why it was a disputed one. Now, and Oppenheim is not the only one who used the term civilized state. Hall, another person, who said that international law consists of certain rules of conduct which modern civilized state regard as binding on them in their relation with one another with a force comparable in nature and degrees to that binding the consciousness to person to obey the laws of his country, and which they regard as being enforceable by appropriate means in case of infringement. Again, what now Hall has gone to next level, who said that modern civilized state. So now this is my opinion, and this is just to make things quite simple rather than making them complicated. We can say that civilized state may be something or some state that is not using force or not using arms at a single or a small dispute, right? It is using some specific means to settle the dispute. This can be like category of civilized state. Again, that is personal, it is not of some jurist or not what Oppenheim or Hall intended. It is very subjective term to be used. That's why these definitions are disputed, and none of them is considered as the specific or the one which is actually defining the term international law. These are definitions according to the jurists, right? So it is important to know what is the approach taken by the eminent jurists rather than taking the whole definition to be actual and practical to the term. Now let's get to the another definition, which is of Gray. What Gray used or said, he said that international law or the law of nations is the name of a body of rules which, according to their usual definition, regulate the conduct of states in their intercourse with each other. Now, how Oppenheim's or definition of Gray is somehow similar, because both are talking about the intercourse with each other, like nation having intercourse with each other. Whenever 2 nations are having intercourse with each other or having any relation with each other. On this relation, international law is applicable. This is the definition of Gray. What J.J. Stark said. J.J. Stark said that it is that body of law comprised of greater part of its principles and rules of conduct which states feel themselves bound to observe and therefore do commonly observe in their relation with each other. Now, what J.J. Stark said that international law is not binding on nations, rather nation binds themselves, that international law is binding on us. There's a difference. What J.J. Stark said that international law is not binding on them is by we are not giving authoritative power to the international law. We are just saying that it is some discretionary rule which we are bound to adopt. Right? Whenever we are representing ourselves in the international community, we are bound to accept the international law. It is not binding on us, but it is binding on us to accept it. Right? So this is the difference between them. Now what J.L. Berkeley said, the law of nations or international law may be defined as a body of rules and principles of actions which are binding upon civilized state in relation to one another. Again, one and the same definition. But there's a difference between J.G. Stark and J.L. Bradley, where J.J. Stark does not say that international law is binding. On the other hand, J.L. Bradley says that it is binding on the nations. These were the definitions of international law. Now, after reading the definitions, it is important to consider the main theories of international law. So we can say that two schools or two theories of international law. These two are the more major theories which are prevalent in the international law. So first is naturalist, another is positivist. So what naturalists say, according to this theory, basic principle of all laws, national or international, not from any deliberate human choice or decision but from principles of justice, which had a universal and eternal validity and which could not be discovered by pure reason. The theory further stipulated that law was to be found and not made. So what naturalists say, so what this theory says, it says that laws are already made by the nature. Right? Humans are not given power to make laws. What they have, they only have the duty to find the laws which are already existing in the nature and made by the nature. So this is the naturalist theory. That's why it says whether it is international or national law, it doesn't matter. It is already prevalent or already in existence in the nature, and what human has to do, it has to find those laws which are already made by the nature. Further, Grotius considered that existence of natural law was automatic consequence of the fact that men lived in a society and were capable of understanding that certain rules were necessary for the preservation of society. So according to this line, that automatic consequence of the fact that men lived in a society, we can say that like I am living in a society and some other person is also living in the society. Now, according to naturalists, there is already a rule that I cannot abruptly or unreasonably murder or kill the other person. Right? This is the natural law, and it is the duty of mine and the other person to preserve ourselves and for the sake of the society. So this is the law which was already made by the nature, and we only found it. We did not make it, according to the naturalist theory. Further, on the other hand, what positivists say, it says that it is based on the principle of law of positivism, which means that facts as contrast with the law which ought to be. The doctrine of positivism teaches that international law is the sum of rules by which states have consented to be bound, and that nothing can be law to which they have not consented to bound. According to this theory, what is state act do was the key, not what state ought to do. So according to positivists, what they do, they are like contradicting to naturalists. How? Naturalists say that laws are already made by the nature, humans just have to find it. What positivists say, they say laws are made according to the behavior or how states behave in certain manner. right? According to such behavior, laws has to be made. That is why what nations actually do is the key to the international law, and not what ought to be there, right? So positivists are considering the situations, different situations in which the nations can act differently. On the other hand, naturally say whether it is international law or national law, it doesn't matter. We are living in a society and we all are bound in the same manner. So this is the two contradicting theories.